what's the biggest challenge you guys are facing right now? What is the barrier you're trying to overcome in your business?
Oh gosh, at every business at different sizes, there's challenges that I didn't have before. The interesting thing is like with the company we just started up in NorCal, because I've been through all those challenges, the company's called Mr. Poppy, if you want to look them up online and find out what they're doing. But Mr. Poppy, Poppy, out of San Jose, California, we serve San Jose and Berkeley. And the reason we're able to grow really fast is because I've already been through those challenges. And I tell people like, guys, I got my butt kicked. You're seeing now like the growth at Fetch a Tech, buying it for $0 and selling it for $70 million in just over a year. You see it as like, wow, I can't believe you did that in 16 months. I'm like, just so you guys know, I had 20 years of getting kicked in the groin and screwing up. It took me 5 years to go from 1.6 million in revenue to 3 million in revenue in my first company, Leads. And I thought I had a great growth rate. I thought I was doing well, but I was learning all these challenges. So if you're sitting there and having challenges at your size, just know at $100 million in revenue, I had all new challenges I didn't know I had before. I ended up losing because I made a bad business deal. I lost $40 million on a business deal that year because I screwed up. And it's a deal that I should have done better due diligence on. I should have assessed it better. I should have known not to go into it. I should have not done that, but it's not something I ever run into before. And I just look at it as paying tuition to learn.
This episode is brought to you by 10X Nerds. If you're a business owner doing real revenue, there's a good chance you're overpaying in areas you haven't even looked at. Things like credit card processing, insurance, telecom, and more. 10X Nerds comes in, audits your expenses across 30 plus categories, and finds immediate savings. And here's the kicker. They only get paid if they save you money. It's a complete no-brainer. If you want to keep more of what you make, go check them out at 10xnerds.com. This episode is brought to you by Rakowski Law Firm. If you're a business owner or have built a level of wealth, but you don't have your estate plan dialed in, you're exposed. Rakowski Law Firm helps families and business owners protect their assets, avoid probate, and make sure everything transfers exactly how it should. This isn't just paperwork, it's a real strategy to protect your legacy. If you haven't looked at your plan in a while or don't have one, go to rakowskilawfirm.com. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Big Hitters Podcast. I'm joined by Tom Howard. Tom is a veteran in the home services and blue-collar space. He's actually now an executive with Service Titan. He owns Lee's Air, doing over $150 million in revenue, and he owns 13 other blue-collar businesses. What an honor, Tom, to have you on this podcast. Man, my first question for the serial guys is where does most of your brain space go every day? You got so much going on. What do you wake up and start thinking about when you get out of bed?
Well, the funny thing is people think it's like a strategy to go own a bunch of companies. They think that's a good idea to make a lot of money. And it never is. Tons of studies have shown that if you own more than one business, it's probably because you have ADHD. There's an 80% chance you have ADHD if you own more than one small business. And that's the truth. And the reality is when I get up, my brain goes every direction. And that's why I own multiple businesses. We typically would make more money if we could focus on one thing and do it really, really well, instead of having 13 of them all over the place. So yeah, it's all over the place, but I live and die by my calendar. So when I wake up in the morning, literally the night before, I set my alarm based on what's on my calendar in the morning. And so if I have an early meeting, I set the thing earlier. If not, then I set it later and then set time for me to go out for a walk and process for the day on what I'm going to do for the day.
This episode is brought to you by my friend Silas Lagoy over at ForgeMark Wealth. If you're a high-income business owner or professional and feel like you're getting crushed by taxes, you're not alone. And more importantly, you're not stuck. ForgeMark Wealth specializes in advanced legal tax strategies and wealth planning designed to help you keep more of what you make, grow it efficiently, and actually build long-term freedom, not just income. If you're making serious money but don't have a real strategy behind it yet, I highly recommend connecting with Silas and his team. What's up, everybody? This episode is sponsored by ExitWise. If you're a business owner thinking about selling your company, whether that's now or years down the road, you need to know what your business is actually worth and how to maximize that exit. That's exactly what ExitWise does. They help you prepare, position, and ultimately sell your business by assembling a world-class team of M&A experts around you, guiding you from valuation all the way through closing. If you want to know what your business is really worth and how to increase that number before you sell, go check out exitwise.com and get ahead of it. Have you found some sort of productivity management system that you
Yeah.
use to be really effective, like deep work, things like that?
Yeah. So a couple of things. One is that I think Dan Martell's book on Buy Back Your Time is really
Yes.
critical. I love that book. I practiced a lot of stuff he talks about, but I didn't read his book until a few weeks ago. And now there's a few things in there that I'm like, wow, I really should have done this or should have done that better. It really helped me optimize. I do. Dan Martell talks a lot about time blocking. I do that all the time. So I put it on my calendar. It could be, read this article that someone wanted me to proofread at Service Titan to approve. And I put that on my calendar at that time period. So I know, okay, this is what I got to do for this time. It tells my brain, stop doing whatever you're doing, start doing that.
Yeah.
And then I'll have, I don't know, it could be read 2 chapters of whatever book. And I have that on my thing. And so I can see what fills up my time for the day. That helps me a ton. I wrote a book and got it published, and it became a number one bestseller on Amazon and a few things, including entrepreneurship and service businesses, called Fetching Millions. And it was my story about how we built and sold Fetch a Tech. And I loved it. I love doing it. I love writing the book about it. I love telling people about it. It's so fun. We bought it for $0 and we sold it for over $70 million about 16 months later. And it was just really
16
cool.
months later?
Yeah.
Dude, that's insane.
Yeah, I didn't own all of it. I had 26%. But bottom line is, like, I wrote that one, and then I just wrote a book on pay plans that's going to come out in a few months called, wrote one on pay plans that actually work. Is the name of the book. And then another one that's going to be marketing. It says no one cares about your pipes, because people take pictures of their air conditioners and their pipes and they put them on Facebook and expect it to make a return. Anyway, and someone told me, like, how do you get all this stuff done? And I'm like, honestly, I just love doing it. And if I just time block, I don't have any more hours in the day than anyone else, but I'm not spending a bunch of time doing stuff that I shouldn't do. I spend a half an hour a week doing a one-on-one with the CEO of Lee's. It's a $150 million operation. And then I spend an hour a week looking at the financials with them on their financial meeting. And honestly, I miss that every other week. So I only go there twice a month. And so it's just not a lot of time to run that company. And I spent a lot of time writing my books, and I spent a lot of time doing stuff for Service Titan, advising them and representing the contractor at the company. So I don't have to spend a lot of time. Like, I don't even today, my assistant hired a guy to come do my DMV work to register a car that I just bought. They came in, signed some paperwork at my desk, and left. So that's literally 3 minutes of my time, instead of like driving to the DMV, standing there for 2 hours, handling all that stuff, and then coming back. Like, I couldn't imagine a worse way to spend my time.
This episode is brought to you by Blue Collar Business Advisors. If you're running an HVAC, plumbing, electrical, or landscaping, or any other type of home service business and wondering where all the money is going despite growing your revenue, you need to talk to Paul Maskill. Paul has scaled and sold multiple blue-collar businesses and now helps business owners improve cash flow, profitability, and financial clarity through outsourced CFO services. His clients gain a better understanding of their numbers, build predictable profits, and create a business that supports the life they actually want. One of the things I appreciate most about Paul is he's not just a finance guy. He's been in the trenches as an owner. He understands the challenges of running blue-collar businesses because he's done it himself. If you're doing a few $1,000,000 a year in revenue and want to stop guessing at your numbers and start building real wealth, head over to bluecollaradvisors.com. That's thebluecollaradvisors.com, and schedule a discovery call with Paul and his team. Blue Collar Business Advisors, helping blue-collar business owners build financially healthy companies and achieve permanent profitability. This episode is brought to you by Corberry Digital. If you own an HVAC, plumbing, electrical, roofing, or home service business and you're tired of wondering where your next lead is coming from, you need to check out Corberry Digital. Corberry specializes exclusively in helping home service companies dominate their local markets through SEO, Google Ads, local service ads, websites, content marketing, and lead generation systems that actually produce a measurable ROI. Their team doesn't just focus on clicks and impressions, they help contractors lower customer acquisition costs, increase qualified leads, and build a marketing engine that scales. What I like about Corberry is they understand the blue collar space. They aren't trying to be everything to everyone. Their entire focus is helping trades businesses win in their backyard and generate more profitable jobs. If you're looking to grow your business, improve your online visibility, and build a marketing system that works, visit Corberry.com and schedule a strategy session with their team. That's Corberry.com. Tell them you heard about them on the podcast. Little hack, I might be a genius or the laziest person in the world, but there's an app called TaskRabbit that I love.
Oh, yeah.
So TaskRabbit is Uber for like menial tasks. And the big reason I do that is because I have 3 young kids. And so like, I know how to hang a TV, but if I could pay someone $25 an hour to come hang a dang TV, I'm going to do it. You know,
Honestly, I'm not sponsored by TaskRabbit at all either, but it's, I love TaskRabbit. I love, all that kind of stuff. I have basically an assistant that lives in my house. I mean, I got kids here and she becomes a nanny. And then when the pool pump goes down, it's like, she knows not to even come and tell me. It's like, just hire the pool guy and handle it and charge it on my credit card and just keep moving.
So what do you most want to talk about? You've got a lot going on, man. You got the stuff with Lee's, you've got the various businesses. Like what would be the most productive use of
I want to give
podcasting?
some value to your listeners. One of the things I tell people and talk about is on all this stuff, a lot of my businesses, including Fetch a Tech and Lee's, they both had a star salesperson. One was at Fetch a Tech, his name is Brent Buckley, did 14 million in annual revenue. Absolutely incredible. At the time, he was the number 1 person on all of ServiceTitan, now 250,000 salespeople on ServiceTitan. He was killing it. And that's in-person sales, 14 million bucks. And at the other one at Lee's, Phil Flasky, who used to work at Fetch Tech, then worked at other places after we sold it. Then he called me up. He went to work at Lee's, and when he was at Fetch a Tech, he did about 7 or 8 million in revenue a year. And at Lee's, he went to 19.6 was his top year. And it just blew me out of the water how incredibly good he was. The first 7 calls I sent him on were all tune-ups. It was in January. Now, granted, I was testing him, so I cherry-picked like all the 15-year-old plus units. I mean, these were like old systems. They're all tune-ups. And he sold 6 out of 7 systems. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. And he's like, no, when you present it to him, it just makes sense. It just sells. And I was shocked. And so I went out and I thought, okay, first of all, I gave him equity in my company like the next day. Second of all, we set up a pay plan that made sense for him. And that's really helped. I mean, when he came to Lee's was at 27 million in revenue. And here we are 3 years later at 150. A lot of that is organic growth. This year, our organic growth is from 100 million to 140. And then we acquired a company called Absolute Airflow in Southern California that's another 10 million in revenue to get to the 150 mark.
Was that Victor's business?
It's Victor's old business. So Victor sold it he sold it to Fix It 24/7. And then Fix It 24/7 sold it to Brody Pinnell, I have a small minority partnership in. And then Brody Pinnell sold it to me. So we're a few away from Victor. But anyway, I just looked at it and realized if you want to have that growth, I honestly don't even like having a $19 million salesperson. I'd rather have 4 people that do 5 million a piece for sure. And so if one leaves, it's okay. And I sat down with Phil that year. They did 19.6. The last quarter, I said, stop doing what you're doing. Come in the office and let's write a sales Bible. I need a bunch of people that can do this. And he was really good at training them. And I'd recommend that to any single person out there. It's like, how are we going to do a sale? And how are we going to get this going? Have the same issue, by the way, up in Northern California. I just started a company with a guy named Sopa in Northern California. The other guy's Andre. Andre and Sopa were top salespeople at Audi. And I said, look, why don't you guys come in and I'll teach you the HVAC side. And they already had started messing around with some electrical stuff. And we got some licenses. We started in January. And so 5 months later in May, they did 896,000 in revenue for the month of May. Not the whole year, but for the month. And this year they'll do over $1 million for the month. And it's all about their sales process. And I realized, I was like, I need to have a Bible. And I find it interesting that here's the Builder Bible, the podcast, a Bible on how to do it and how to make it happen. And so with Phil, that last quarter, he would have sold a lot more than 19 million, but for last quarter, we basically had him in the office. He sold like 18 and a half going up into the last quarter. In the last quarter, we just shut him off, and he only ran a few leads those few months, and he literally trained staff. And that really changed our business. It allowed us to grow. And so we created a video series on what to do, and he went into the office and trained. And I realized, I got to do that for all my businesses, like the marketing, the operations, how we set up our vendor managed inventory, how we do our marketing, and how we assess a market, and how we go in and what do we spend money on, what do we not, how do we test markets, how do we do HR so we don't get sued that much, how do we handle leadership, how do we, all those things, and then the sales. And we ended up with 9 categories. We ended up doing 245 videos on these, and then created a whole learning management system around it so they could go click and give quizzes, so it automatically shows up. You can see, I can see all my employees on whether or not they're doing it, what their scores are, whether or not they're completing it. And especially with sales, we want them to keep taking it over and over and over again, because every time Phil would do a training, 3 months later, they'd forget and their close rates would go down. Well, I eventually turned that in and said, okay, well, if we already did it for Lee's, why don't we just make it into a company and sell it? So we're trying to do it for as cheap as possible. And we started a company called Real American Grit, and realamericangrit.com/offer if you're looking for it. And you can just buy the course. And the top level one, you can actually use the learning management system and upload your own content for your own, if you have onboarding that you want to do or whatever else. And you can use all of our content and train all your people on it. And then you can also add your own, any onboarding stuff you want to do, any standard stuff you want to do for your daily huddles or whatever else, and just add it in there. So it's pretty cool.
I love that. What's crazy is I just had, you might know him, Keith Flores on a week ago or a couple weeks ago. He's goes by HVAC God. And I was like, what's the biggest mistake PE's making in HVAC? He's like, they come in and they fire your top producers. And I think a lot of HVAC guys and just blue collar guys in general, that scares the crap out of me. Like, to think that a guy would be doing 8 figures in production, like the paychecks alone. I'm like, is this worth it? I'm signing these things, So
you had to do, when you're looking at 10% commission, that's 1.9 million in personal income. He had a few where he split commissions with people, so he ended up getting like 1.6 for the year was his personal income. And it's, the funny thing is about commissions, those are the easiest checks for me to sign. It's like, I can't lose if I'm paying commission. It's just, I'm just paying them for what they already produced, and they made me a lot of money. That's why I'm paying them. By the way, Keith Flores, cool guy. He introduced me to my favorite guy that makes custom suits. His name's Andrew Pavlovich out of LA. And I've got like 5 or 6 custom suits from Andrew, and I love it.
That's great. He's always fresh, man. He's always fresh in his suits. This episode is brought to you by Jonathan Keim and the teams at 360 Commercial Roofing and Top Roof Marketing. If you own or manage commercial property, or you're a roofing contractor looking to grow, Jonathan has spent more than a decade helping businesses protect their buildings and scale through proven commercial roofing and marketing systems. His companies specialize in commercial roofing solutions, roof asset management, and marketing built specifically for the roofing industry. Whether you need a trusted commercial roofing partner or want to generate more qualified roofing leads, check out 360 Commercial Roofing or Top Roof Marketing. You can go to www.360, like 360, commercialroofing.com, and Top Roof Marketing, www.toproofmarketing.com. What's the biggest challenge you guys are facing right now? What is the barrier you're trying to overcome in your business?
Yeah. Oh gosh. At every business at different sizes, there's challenges that I didn't have before. The interesting thing is, like with the company we just started up in NorCal, because I've been through all those challenges, The company's called Mr. Poppy, if you want to look them up online and find out what they're doing. But Mr. Poppy, Poppy, out of San Jose, California. We serve San Jose and Berkeley. And the reason we're able to grow really fast is because I've already been through those challenges. And I tell people, like, guys, I got my butt kicked. You're seeing now, like, the growth at Fetch a Tech, buying it for $0 and selling it for $70 million in just over a year. You see it as like, wow, I can't believe you did that in 16 months. I'm like, just so you guys know, I had 20 years of getting kicked in the groin and screwing up. It took me 5 years to go from 1.6 million in revenue to 3 million in revenue at my first company, Leads. And I thought I had a great growth rate. I thought I was doing well, but I was learning all these challenges. So if you're sitting there and having challenges at your size, just know at $100 million in revenue, I had all new challenges I didn't know I had before. I ended up losing because I made a bad business deal. I lost $40 million on a business deal that year because I screwed up. And it's a deal that I should have done better due diligence on. I should have assessed it better. I should have known not to go into it. I should have not done that, but it's not something I ever run into before. And I just look at it as paying tuition to learn. So the reason the Northern California company is growing so fast, and literally they're in month 5 or 6, they're on a $10 million run rate for the year. If they continue doing that revenue every month, which now we're doing more, we're going to do over 1.1 million, maybe 1.2 for June. It's June 30th now when we're recording this. Is because I already been through all those problems before. We've already learned those things. So the challenges I have at each company are different, but I can promise you once you get through them, if you go back and have to do it again, you kind of skip. You've got the cheat code that even the NorCal guys, I've argued with them. Make sure you hire a sales guy. Oh, we can sell it ourselves. We can sell it ourselves. No, hire a sales guy right now, I promise. And then they do it and they're like, oh my gosh, it's great. And then, hey, you've got to hire an install manager. Oh, we don't need, no, we can do it. It's going to cost us money. I don't care. Hire an install manager. That's what you got to do. And so at the $5 million mark, you're kind of looking at like having a middle manager, like your service manager or whatever. At the $10 million mark in HVAC anyway, it's like typically when you get a GM that's going to make a lot of things happen for you. You know, kind of once you get to the $20 million mark, you've got that company. Now you're just making a whole bunch of $20 million locations at each city. And then you just are adding like a C-suite executive at that point that oversees the whole thing. So at Leeds, I have like a CEO, a CFO, and a chief marketing officer that oversees 9 locations in 4 states. By the way, even then I screwed up. We had 10 locations in 5 states for a long time. And, you know, we had to shut something down in LA. So anyway, you just gotta, you gotta realize that you're going to have different problems at different levels and you're not immune. And even guys that have done really well had a lot of screw ups and a lot of pain in their life to get to the point where they're successful.
I haven't had a single guy over 100 million come on the show and say he hasn't gone through bankruptcy, divorce, drugs. Like, I mean, the stories.
2 years ago. That's
yeah. I feel like that's been an encouragement to me. Like with one of my companies, like, I mean, I wish it was growing faster. And I just like, that's one of the beautiful things about this podcast. I feel like it's always like a constant encouragement from other business owners. I'm curious about the $40 million thing that happened where you lost money. Like, was it an acquisition that went south or what was it?
Yeah. I gave out stock in the company and lease. And that's the hardest part about that is that, when I make a decision on that, those shareholders trust me to make a good decision. And the reality is, in this case, I made a bad decision. There's a few employees that told me that I should do it and several that told me not to. The difference between, genius and insanity is success. So if it had been successful, I look like a genius. If it had not been successful, I look like a total moron because like we all told you this is a bad idea. Why did you do it? If everyone tells you it's a bad idea and then you succeed, they're like, oh my gosh, you're a genius. You saw through it. And truth be told, I've done over 30 acquisitions at this point. And in this industry, I've only had one that went sideways this badly. Well, 2. That's not true. I have 2. Sometimes you're going to swing. Unfortunately, this is a big swing and I missed. It was a door knocking company. And I think that the owners were being truthful in what they were doing. and trying to be honorable. When we acquired them, though, we had to put things in place to verify stuff was right. And so in this case, we're using, for door knocking, we used Rilla for tracking what was going on. And we were getting some customer complaints and things, and we started getting into the recordings, and then they were magically shutting off the recordings at opportune times. And then we started realizing the average person that they were selling to was like over 65 years old. And so we found that they were really targeting, and a few people, not everyone. They were targeting people that they shouldn't have been selling to. They were doing unethical things. It got to the point where they were still making some money, just not as much as when we had acquired them. And I said, okay, we had to fire the top sales guy because he was doing things that were very unethical. And then when he left, he took 5 people with him. And then when we had all the recordings, said you have to leave the recordings on. They couldn't sell and be ethical at the same time. And I said, okay, well, I don't trade ethics for EBITDA. And we had to shut it down. And like I said, they were still making some money, so we could have kept it open. But I don't want to have to fight and worry about whether or not my people are being ethical in the field when I'm not there. And we had, 65 door knockers, and they were making about $30 million in revenue a year. And I gave stock away, and the reality is stock's gone. It's with them now, and it diluted the rest of the shareholders in the company. And so out of that 40 million, about half of it was mine. So that's a $20 million net loss to me personally. And then $20 million gets lost to all the other shareholders of Lee's, which I still feel guilty about to this day, thinking that, hey, I made a decision that affected all my employees that much. It's hard.
That's brutal. And you decided to shut it down, which I don't think a lot of people would have done. I think that's one of the hardest things to do in business, is to shut something down. Because there's people that are like, I think that's one of the hardest things to do, is to fully shut down a business.
Scale, it's kind of like firing a big customer.
Yeah.
If you have a big customer that's causing you problems and doesn't give you quite the margin you wanted or whatever, that was when I first had to learn it. When I was smaller, I had a few commercial customers.
Yeah.
And I told my staff, like, look, let's build the company until we can fire them. And no matter how big your company gets, you'll always feel like, well, I could have this revenue if I just kept them around. But it turns out to be the best thing you can do for your business a lot of times, is fire that customer and move on and focus on the things that actually make good money, that customers are going to pay you on time, so you're not pulling your hair out. If I had any hair left to pull out, tracking down the check and, when are you going to pay me, or listening to them yell at your staff or whatever else. And I think you get a lot of respect from your employees as well when you have the guts to walk in and say, no, we're going to fire that customer. Or on a bigger scale, hey, I've got to shut this division down.
Yeah. Yeah. How are you guys, I'm curious, at a high level, across all your enterprises, how are you guys integrating AI into your businesses?
Here's the interesting thing. I've got companies stretched out across a lot of different states, and then a couple of countries, because I got one in Australia is about 23 million in revenue. And in these locations, I noticed the ones that are really succeeding, all of them are implementing AI in some way. The ones that are succeeding, though, are actually using it well. So, and I'll give you an example. I got a bunch of people that, hey, we implemented virtual agents that answer the phone and book jobs and everything else in all these locations. And in the locations that are underperforming the most, they're the ones that literally, after we implemented AI, our inbound call revenue per CSR actually went down. Now, revenue's up. The amount of CSRs they actually hired, though, went up. And so the revenue per CSR went down. And so I got that metric and I said, what's going on? And I realized they're terrified of relying on AI. So they're hiring more people, assuming that it's not going to work. And I'm like, guys, you can't have 1 foot in and 1 foot out. You have to decide, this is where we're going. A great company, and someone I look up to a lot, is named Chris Hoffman, out of Hoffman Brothers out of St. Louis. He's out of St. Louis, and he's got another location in Tennessee. But he went to what he calls it N1, because he's using Netic as his virtual agents. And it's coming to virtual agent first, and then if they have an issue, it rolls over to a office administrator. And he went live on that 6-7 months ago before most people are even on virtual agents booking. And he's making it happen. And he is dropping the amount of CSRs he has because he doesn't need them. And I think that's what you have to look at. It's so much more scalable, so much more reliable. AI is not going to, sue you for a workers' comp claim. AI is not going to, start sleeping with your service tech. AI is not going to, you don't got to worry about that stuff. You just turn it on and it goes. AI doesn't have sick days. AI, it's just so many things that you just don't have to worry about because you've got a machine doing it instead of a human. And there's always going to be room for humans in our industry, but you got to get more efficient. And if you don't want to get on that bandwagon, you're going to be left behind, and your competitors are going to be totally killing you. They're going to drive up their profits. They're going to take that profit. They're going to turn around and use it to get more market share and spend more money on marketing and focus on the things that you can't, and they're going to leave you behind. So you can either decide to take on AI, and you're going to lose a few employees and get more efficient and still grow as a company and make sure that your technicians and plumbers or whatever are taken care of, or you can not adopt it, and eventually you'll be bankrupt, and every single person in your company is going to lose their job, and your family's going to lose their livelihood. That's what you got. Those are your options. If you're not willing to do that, you got to think about it. Put on your big boy pants, your big girl pants, and just make a decision. And if you're not strong enough to make that decision, you shouldn't be a CEO anyway, and you need to step down. And you can do it yourself, or the market can put you out of business. Either one.
Yeah, that's good. Music to my ears. I'm not a fan of anybody getting fired or replaced. It's just a way to leverage your best staff. And oh, by the way, after hours and overflow, and you're improving efficiencies, you can automate entire workflows. Why wouldn't you want to do that?
I have 2 5-star reviews for Ashley, my CSR. And Ashley, it's very rare that they mention a CSR in a 5-star review, but Ashley got 2 5-star reviews. She's awesome. The truth is, Ashley's not a human. And they didn't even know.
Are you using Avoca, Lace, Broccoli? What's your...
I've used one that worked really well for me was Same Day AI, but now I use Service Titan's virtual agents. Okay. And switched over to them on most of my stuff. So it's just built in. And the big thing I think people need to think about when it comes to AI booking is everyone's focused on the booking rate. At Service Titan, we have all the data for what the booking rates are for every single AI engine that is on Service Titan, and almost all of them. Obviously, most of the companies above 5 million in revenue in the country in plumbing, HVAC, and electrical, and garage door are on Service Titan. And so we see all the booking rates, and what we found in the past 6 months is almost all the booking rates are starting to equal out. And the reason is they're all using similar engines in the background for AI. And so the booking rate is kind of getting level, and it's becoming a commodity. What is more important when it comes to AI booking is actually your bounce rate. So the bounce rate is how often do they say, I want to talk to a human, and say bounce off of AI and have to go to the human. Our bounce rate previously was 71%. And the reason is if they would call in, 60% of our phone calls were not to book a new job. It was, hey, I scheduled an appointment for 2:00 tomorrow, but I can't make it. Can you book me to the next day at 1:00 or whatever? Or, hey, I had this happen. I need you to come back out and fix this because someone left a, drill at my house. Do they want to come pick it up? There's just a ton of things that people call in about that have nothing to do with whatever. And they either need to book a return or they need to reschedule. And if your AI engine can't do that, then they have to switch over to human. And so once we moved over to Service Titan booking, Service Titan can do rescheduling and that kind of stuff. So our bounce rate went from 71% down to 40%. So now only 40% of the calls that come in that get answered by AI actually have to go to a human, as opposed to 70%. That's a bigger metric that I think is more important than booking rate right now. And Service Titan's booking rate is doing really well, and quite frankly, top of the class. But you're talking about a change of 0.5% in booking rate. It's not that much. It's the bounce rate is huge.
I'm curious to hear where you think AI, where you think home services is going because of AI. Not if it's going to affect home services, because it is, but where you think home services is going to go because of AI.
I think people are underestimating the impact of AI a lot. When cloud computing came about, it was revolutionary. And this is, we're looking years and years ago now.
Yeah.
In 10 years, they invest like $1 trillion into cloud computing. I mean, just poured money into that thing. In AI, they did that in 1 year. 10 times faster than what we did in cloud computing. It's going to change everything. In the trades, people are, some people are resisting and they don't want to get into, some of the early stage stuff like AI phone answering and AI auditing their jobs and AI coaching and that kind of stuff. And those people that do that are going to fall behind and they're going to get, their businesses are going to be destroyed. So
Yeah.
I think a lot of people right now are telling me about how the economy just isn't where it is, and they're having a bad 2026 or bad 2025. The thing is, right now, I'm noticing the same thing that happened back in 2010, 2011. 2010, 2011, the economy was turning around from the Great Recession, right? 2012. I mean, I was there, and I heard all kinds of people talking about how the economy was still bad. And what I realized was that during that time, and this is when I was able to buy up businesses, the whole marketing scheme changed, like how Google worked and how pay-per-click worked, and that kind of stuff was all changing. And the people that weren't getting on the bandwagon just thought the economy was still bad. The economy wasn't bad. 2013, 2014, it was taken off. People were just still in their heads about it. Same thing's happening with AI right now. People that are accepting AI and getting on it and making things happen, they are excelling and succeeding. My biggest branches that are really killing it right now are growing at, well, one of them just grew 300. Well, it's 3 times larger than it was this July. And last July, at 1.9 million. This July, they're at 6 million. June as well. And when you're tripling and you're that size, you're killing it. And they're accepting AI. They're accepting what they have to do to get there. They're accepting the new ways that ads are happening and that kind of stuff. And that's why they're winning. So anyway, it's a long story, but I would say that AI is going to take a much bigger role than they think. Right now, just phone answering and automating is critical, but it's going to keep going. Long term, people say, well, it's never going to take our jobs in the trades, like robots aren't going to do our job. I totally disagree. If it's going to take longer, some people are thinking, but it's going to be 15, 20 years out. They're going to have robots running service calls as well.
Totally. I mean, I think I was watching an interview with Elon Musk, and he was like, I think we're 2 or 3 years away from robots being able to do brain surgeries, which is crazy. I think with AI, Tom, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's just people's willingness to adapt to it. It's, will people be willing to let a robot in their house to do the call, right? It's not a question if it will be able to do it. It's a question of how quickly will people adapt to it, you know?
Yeah. If you look at it, Elon Musk was talking about right now they're able to reduce accidents drastically. So they took a bunch of Teslas and put them on full self-driving, and they took a bunch of Teslas and test out against people that are driving it themselves. So it's Tesla drivers either way. And then they test against autopilot as well. So they have drivers, autopilot, and self-driving. Autopilot means you still have to have your hands on the wheel and you have to be paying attention. Just from regular drivers to autopilot, they reduced accidents by 75%. But he made a good point. He said, look, the problem is, even if we reduced it by 99%, they would hold us accountable for the 1% that we didn't prevent. And it would be all over the news that Tesla causes an accident. I think the same thing is happening with, it'll happen with brain surgeries, it'll happen with everything else. It's like something's going to go sideways in a home because it was done by a robot and the robot screwed up and then, broke something, burnt a house down, whatever else. And they just won't point out that, gosh, we had that happening all the time with humans. And I mean, someone in my city worked on the mayor's house was how he could, install insulation in the house. And he covered a bunch of can lights and overheated and threw the house on television. Um, if a robot did that, we'd say, "Oh my gosh, we have to shut down all robots can never go in a house anymore." Um, but I think it's going to take a while to accept it. But once they realize that it just logically makes more sense to have robots do it, in the end.
Yeah, totally. Let's talk about PE for a second because you have a really good understanding of it, experience with it. There's a lot of fear around PE. What do you feel like they get right, and what do independent owners misunderstand about it?
Yeah. Just a heads up, I can hear it's like really loud in the background, whoever that is over there.
Oh, give me one sec. Let me see if I
It's getting a little quieter now. But
let me switch locations real quick.
okay.
All right. All right. So you have familiarity with private equity.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fear around PE in home services. What do you feel like PE gets right, and what do independent owners misunderstand about PE?
Um, people get, I think what they misunderstand is a lot of them say, "Oh man, they're just here to be a hatchet man and cut jobs and cut wages and this and that," which just I think is honestly pretty ridiculous. If I look at a lot of the mom and pop shops, they're paying less than what PE companies are paying. People call me a PE company because I'm like, it's private, it's my equity. I'm not a traditional PE. I'm not going out raising funds and that kind of stuff to invest in people. Um, they'll come to me and they'll say, well, first of all, I'm not the hatchet person. I'll get to that in a second. But second of all, they'll come to me and say, how do you sleep at night charging those prices? My average ticket in Fresno, California last year was $26,000 for an AC replacement. Now, granted, I'm adding on a lot. We're doing duct work and indoor air quality and that kind of thing. But our average with just replacement was over 25K. And we did a lot of inverters. Um, and I tell them, I'm like, look, I stole this idea from Tommy Mello. I say, look, hey, do you give all your employees full medical, dental, and vision benefits? Yes or no? And they'll always say, well, a lot of them are like, well, maybe. Some of them do, some of them don't. And then I say, do you give your people, paid vacation, 3 weeks a year, 6 weeks a year, whatever it is? And they say no. And then I say, do you pay for your people to go to college? Because we offer free college tuition to all of our employees and to anything they want to do. I've had people go to Harvard, Stanford, UCLA, Fresno State, gone to business school, gone to whatever engineering school. None of them, all of them say no. I say, okay, well, how do you sleep? You feel good because you're saving your customer and screwing over your family and screwing over all your employees at the same time because you don't have the balls to raise your prices. And you think you can sleep at night because you screw all of them. I want you to look all of them in the face and say, look, I'm not a good enough business owner. I don't have the balls to raise my prices. I don't have the balls to go out there and do what I should do. I don't have the guts to stand up and say, Mrs. Homeowner, Mr. Homeowner, this is what we need to charge. I'm not a good enough business person to serve all of you well enough to send you guys to college, to make sure you guys get vacations with your families, to make sure you guys get to have strong careers. But I sleep well at night because I charge less to my customer. Okay, that's fine. That's really the argument with PE. And they're like, oh, they charge too much. It's like, guys, usually they have better benefits for other people because they have to. Number one. Number two, they usually charge more. And yes, they make more profit, but they got a much larger company that's much more scalable and much more sustainable. It's just a whole different thing. I know lots of PE companies that have much better jobs for their employees and all those things. They've, they've, they've literally, the reason that a lot of these business owners have been able to sell their companies is because PE came in. Before, you could only sell your business for 3 to 5 times profit. Now you can sell your business for, depending on the size, 10, 15, 20 times profit. And these people are becoming multi-millionaires and everyone's crapping on PE. Why? I don't get it. Yes, there are some PE groups and there's people going out there masquerading as private equity. that aren't private equity and they're doing dumb stuff. And I tell you, like, you need to go research the people that you're investing in or having invested in you and say, look, like, if they're not good, then don't go with them and don't get greedy. A lot of these people get very greedy and they're like, oh my gosh, they see a dollar sign in front of them and they just go do the deal and then they get screwed, in their opinion, by PE. They fail to mention some of them got like 40 million, $50 million up front. And they say, oh, but PE screwed me because I could have got more. Shut up. Like, you got what you got and you made the decision you made and you made a business deal. That's it. I don't see PE as, I see some PEs as terrible, terrible companies, but most of them are not these bad goblins that everyone talks about.
Yeah. Along those lines, so you've done over 30 acquisitions. Before you even look at the financials, what are the first things that you're evaluating to tell you if a company's worth buying?
I'll tell you this: if you're selling your company and someone's come in looking at buying you, there's always what's called management meetings, and they come in, especially if you're doing a normal process, and they sit down. It's usually a couple hours long, where they're interviewing, sometimes like 4 hours, interviewing the management team. And keep in mind, it's a two-way agreement here. So it's a two-way interview process. They're standing around, they're talking like, hey, you know, they'll ask you questions about where your revenue comes from and, you know, what your sale process is like and that kind of stuff. They don't really care that much about that stuff. What they're looking at is, do these managers really understand the business? Or is there someone pulling the strings here? Is there someone behind the scenes that we got to worry about, that we got to make sure that we, you know, get some golden handcuffs on them and that kind of thing? They want to make sure that the business operates well and that the management team's strong before buying it. And I usually look at the financials first, but the next thing I'm doing is talking to them. And if these are people that I can't trust or do business with, for instance, if I go and find out that they cheat on their wife or husband, whatever, I can't do business with them. There's no way. Because if that's the most important covenant you've ever made in your entire life is with your spouse, and you break that, I'm chopped liver. You'll screw me over in 30 seconds. I don't want to deal with that. If I'm having this management meeting and they don't know their numbers, I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to go into a meeting where someone's, you know, putting up their thumb and going, well, this looks like we're doing well this month. I don't want to deal with somebody that's not a go-getter and willing to adapt. When it comes to AI, Vahe said, who's the president of Service Titan, 2 or 3 years ago at Pantheon, which is our big user conference, he said, as fast as things are changing today, the rate of change is the slowest it will ever be. It's only going to get faster from here. And people kind of said, oh, okay. And then here we are 3 years later, and it's changing like every month. AI has totally new capabilities and everything else just blowing up. AI is literally 10xing its capabilities every 6 months, which means in 1 year, it's 100 times more capable than it is right now.
Yeah.
It's just, if you're going to partner with somebody, you better be willing, that person better be willing to adapt and change and whatever else, because if someone's 100 times more capable in 12 months, you got to be on that bandwagon, man. You've got to be on top of it and seeing what you can use it for. So that's what I'm really driving for.
Tom, if someone handed you a $5 million business tomorrow, what would you do to get it to a $100 million business?
What industry?
HVAC.
In HVAC, it depends. So it depends on what market I'm in. For instance, a lot of times I'm going to look and I'm going to say, okay. And a lot of this stuff, by the way, it doesn't take me hours to analyze. It's just talking to someone in about 5 minutes. It's all going to come out. They're going to say, I want to get to $100 million. I'm $5 million in revenue. I'm like, okay, what location are you at? They'll say, well, I'm in Shreveport, Louisiana. Okay, cool. Hot weather, humid, semi-close to the ocean so that the systems deteriorate pretty quickly. You're looking at like a 10-year average life expectancy. In that particular location, I know you're only going to hit 25 million maybe in revenue, maybe less. Not sure exactly what the population of Shreveport is, but whatever. You're going to have to get to multiple locations. I'm going to have to start thinking about that. 100 million in revenue. You know, I'm going to look at like, what can I go to Baton Rouge? Can I go over? What's my licensing like to get into Texas? The bigger markets like Dallas and Houston, They're super competitive, but at least I can get over there and start getting some revenue going. I'm going to go and see if I can acquire smaller businesses that are struggling, to try to boost them up and pick up their databases and pick up some talent and scale that, especially if I'm having to go to a different area because the market size is not big enough. If I'm in Dallas, though, I can get to 100 million just like that. I'm going to go do what I call a bunch of tuck-ins. I'm going to talk to a lot of my competitors. I'm going to say, hey, look, you're 65, 70 years old. You're looking for a retirement plan. You want to get out. You got a couple $1 million of revenue. I'm going to tuck that into mine. It's usually my cost of customer acquisition that way is much lower than what it is with traditional marketing. I'm going to do social media marketing like crazy. I'm going to rebrand so that my brand is identifiable. Most of these brands I see out there in air conditioning are terrible. You go out, they always have the red and blue circle around a logo, around a name. Or they've got a snowflake and a sun or whatever.
I've literally seen that. And I know exactly what you're talking about. That's
Yeah.
hilarious.
And it's what you're doing when you're advertising for that. The human brain sees that. What people don't realize is they see anything they see. Your brain doesn't process everything you see. It processes it maybe 20, 25% of what you're seeing. And then it makes up everything else. And the reason is because your brain's trying to be efficient. If your brain had to process everything that hit your eyeball, it would overload your brain. You'd be exhausted. Your brain already only processing 25% already uses more energy per cell than any other muscle you have in your entire body. It's insane. It produces a ton of heat. That's why your head gets hot when you're like running or whatever, or talking. Anyway, your brain can't process that all. So when you put up a logo that says a sun and a snowflake or whatever, your brain immediately sees it. In order to be efficient, says that's an air conditioning company and turns and starts thinking about the next thing. It doesn't think that's Sally's heating and air. That's, John whatever's heating and air, whatever it says in the name, whatever else. It just moves on to the next thing. When you see a white truck with a red and blue logo, a circle or whatever, swooshes like I used to have on my logo, that's the same thing your brain is doing. It just lets it go and just passes by your brain. When you see something else that kind of sticks out and is totally crazy, your brain attaches to it, processes it, and looks at it and spends an extra second trying to figure out what it is before it can put it away. And so that's what good branding does. It sticks in your mind and reminds people who you are. So that's why when we got Fetch Tech, we went from 11 million in revenue to 25 million in revenue in a year, and we got new branding. It was 3 companies. It was Climate Control Experts, which had this, the flame and the icicle and whatever else on it, and then Priority Plumbing and ACLV, AC Las Vegas. Put all under Fetch Tech. It had like purple and yellow and teal colors. It was really weird.
Was one of those Jason Henderson by chance?
I don't think Jason Henderson worked at Climate Control Experts, if I remember. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't remember. Anyway, so the rebrand, it had a dog on the side holding a wrench in its mouth. It kind of looks like a dog groomer, but it's not. It's got a wrench, so your brain has to like stop and think and process. Anyway, I would rebrand. A lot of people are terrified of rebranding, so they'll say, "Oh, I'm going to lose all my customers," which is never the case. I've done it a bunch of times. It doesn't happen as long as you do it decently. And I would, I'd start pushing advertising that way.
Yep, love it. Looking ahead 5 years, where do you think the home service space is? What do you think the best companies will be doing?
In like what industries they'll be in, like roofing or
no,
HVAC?
like what do you? Let me say that differently. What do you think the best HVAC, plumbing, and electrical companies will be doing that the average contractor will not be doing in 5 years?
I think you're going to see consolidation even bigger than we've seen before. People say, the whole HVAC space is consolidated. I said, well, really? If you look at pest control, the top 5 pest control companies in the United States own 80% of the pest control market. You look at Orkin, which is owned by Rollins, Terminix, which is publicly traded for a while, Rent-A-Kill, Aptiv. These companies are just gigantic. And In the HVAC space, we're not there yet. We're not even close. The top 5 companies represent like 5% of the market. And I think you're going to continue to see that. There's still plenty of room for like small pest companies to be a startup and get going.
Yeah.
But it's going to be different. And it really does infuse a lot of cash in this industry, which allows us, companies like Service Titan even, to invest a lot of money to make even better tools to help more people, which is great, because if there weren't these solid large companies out there, regardless of whether or not they're owned by PE, even if they're owned by, private people, they are willing to pay a lot more for software. So we're able to make a lot cooler stuff that help a lot more contractors. And I think you're going to see even more consolidation, and you're going to see a more and more advanced industry. If you see things like roofing is kind of 10 years behind where HVAC and plumbing is.
Yeah.
And so it's going to just skyrocket. That's the one right now where I'd say if I was going to get into anything right now, it'd probably be roofing.
And then fire safety, by the way, I'm in the heart of PE country in Denver, Colorado, and all my M&A buddies are like, get me some meetings with some fire safety guys. I'm like, yeah, okay. I don't even know where I would go to do that, but I'll look for it.
Fire, life, and safety is a huge market. It is a lot more. You have a few very, very large companies in that one, though, so it is consolidated to some extent. Like the Costco fire protections of the world and that kind of thing that, owned by Minimax and stuff. They're killing it right now. It's just a lot of that. I left them out because in most states, it's not a home service thing. In California now, they're requiring all new homes to have fire sprinklers in them, and it's adding more, work for the fire life safety people. But a lot of states don't require that, just for commercial.
Yeah. Well, Tom, man, I can't thank you enough for coming on the podcast. Such an honor. Where can people learn more about all the things that you're up to if they wanted to?
If you go to Instagram at Real Tom Howard on Instagram. Also, I put a class out there with all the things we did in our companies on all the sales training and all that stuff at realamericangrit.com/offer. You can buy the class and train your whole team. It's a good resource for a lot of people that just want to figure out how to get their general operations going.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Don't go anywhere because I want to keep talking, but thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thanks.